What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kemple with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. We have a very cool guest, very dynamic. She is a trauma-integrative hypnotherapist, intuitive, and coach who helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs and leaders overcome emotional wounds and trauma. Please welcome Tatiana Vilarea to the show. Tatiana, thank you for joining us today. Can you please tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And I would like to start with, I'm an unusual hypnotherapist. I'm a very body-focused and emotional healing-focused hypnotherapist. So my journey actually started with that physical healing for a medical injury that I had using hypnotherapy. Not expected, nothing else worked for this injury. It was like a neurological damage to the nerves. And after I had this transformation, and the same happened, by the way, for my back pain. And when I found out the power of this methodology, of this modality, I wanted to share it with the world. So I started my business, and all the possible blocks, what we call mindset blocks and business blocks, started coming up and affected my business for 3 years. Every day I was basically trying to build my business with all those fears that were really brutal, because my biggest one was fear of camera and public speaking. So what we're doing right now was not possible at all. I could not even record myself on camera without even sharing it with anybody. And I knew right away that it was not a way to build a business. Yeah. Because it's not even just about public speaking or visibility. It's everything. It's marketing. It affects our networking, marketing. A lot of people with fear of visibility would hate sales, and they would think that it's a sales issue and that they hate marketing and sales. But for a lot of women, because I ended up now working with entrepreneurs, helping them to overcome what I've overcome for myself, right? Sure. So I tried everything. I went from coach to coach to coach. I got into $15,000 in debt, trying to overcome this fear of visibility. And I was living in a basement apartment with one window in winter, and realized that I had to either go back, quit my dream. I was driven. I was on a mission, but I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And because I was in such a state of panic every time I was about to speak and be on camera, that I avoided it. I didn't have enough exposure. I didn't have enough clients. Of course, as a result, I didn't have enough money, right? And I was basically, I either have to give up on everything. And that was the dream. I wanted to make a difference in this world, right? Yeah. And so basically either quit and go back to a job and be able to afford rent, or do something different, because I was obviously missing something. Yeah. And this is when I had my first breakthrough. I realized that I was trying to fix a wrong problem, the wrong problem, because I was trying to fix my beliefs about and mindset, right? Because we are told as business people that strategy and mindset are the biggest things to figure out for an entrepreneur. And I realized that every time I needed to go live, I would have this fear, visceral fear, animal panic kind of attack fear in my body. And I had this breakthrough that I'm fixing the wrong thing. Yeah. And from then on, I went on to study trauma and its effect on the body and on the neurocircuitry, and how the body stores trauma in its memory. And trauma, by the way, the old-fashioned way of thinking of trauma, the old paradigm, is that it's an event, like a war or something, like a shock. Yeah. It's actually an experience within the nervous system. So anything it really depends on, it's very individual. It's an experience, it's a felt experience in the body. It can be a shock, or it can be vice versa, lack of something, like lack of support, love, and nurture, right? And apparently, I didn't know that at the time, because I just started on this journey, that leading trauma experts are all talking about this trauma-based approach. And so I started learning trauma, studying, educating myself, and ended up developing a methodology, which I developed on my own, which bypasses and skips this mind first kind of paradigm. So it basically goes beyond words and reasoning and thinking, because we are trying to reason with the body, but the body and even the subconscious mind, I would argue, do not understand words and reasoning.
Right.
And so I developed a modality that releases body memory and those neurological patterns that are habitual, that run that traumatic response when we are re-triggered with a threat, perceived threat or real threat.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's and so I asked you before we started recording, and I have actually have a bunch of questions, but I want to back up a little bit. And you shared something with me. I asked you why you wanted to go into this type of and getting these type of skill sets, and you started telling me it's because based on some of the trauma that you experienced. Can you share that with the audience so they have an understand like what your background is and why it got you to where you are today?
Mhm. Well, at age 19, I ran away from my family, moved to America with $350 in my pocket. So
Can you share with everybody where you're from?
I am from Russia, and I ran away. I could not live there for multiple reasons,
Yeah.
and part of it was because of my family, part of it because of everything politically.
Yeah.
And so I ran away at age 19 to New York, out of all places, with $350 in my pocket.
You're
As you
brave.
as you might imagine, $350 in New York, it did not last long.
No. No.
And the journey was brutal. The journey was real. It was the journey of rock bottoms. And so, but I thought at the beginning that, hey, yay, I ran away. I escaped. Now I'm going to learn, or like start life from scratch. But all that trauma followed because wherever we go, we take ourselves with us.
Yeah.
And it all came to my business. And it came with me to all my relationships, all my, the developing cancer at age 19, right, 20. The surgery that I had was for that developing cancer. And so it followed me everywhere I went. But now I was self-employed, and I could avoid and resist and not look into some of it when it came to my relationships or some other patterns. But when you are self-employed and you have a purpose and you want to, make a difference in the world and, have to make money doing it,
Yeah.
I had no choice. And so my journey with entrepreneurship turned into really a deep dive into personal development and deep soul searching work and trauma work all at the same time. And so what I do right now for clients is the same. I combine very spiritual and personal development tools that I gathered and the trauma work, because ultimately it's very important to communicate with the subconscious mind and the body using the
Yeah.
tools that the body and the subconscious can understand. Because
Yeah.
we try to reason and use logic with parts of us that are beyond reason and logic. It's like the inner child work that a lot of people are doing right now. It's amazing. But the problem is we're using logic and reasoning and words with those aspects of us when those parts are pre-verbal.
Yeah.
When the trauma happens in early age, there are no schemas, the language schemas, no language developed yet. It's all emotional.
Yeah.
So the tools we need to use, and this is what I had to develop, right? My secret sauce, so to say, is that way to communicate and bypass the logic and the mind and release those hooks from the body. And what I found out is that when we do that, the mindset and beliefs, and therefore our actions, adjust accordingly, adjust naturally, organically. So we're not trying to break our brain and somehow believe positively that
Right.
our body is in a state of fear and unsafety,
Yeah.
whether we remember the trauma or not. Right? For me, for example, childhood trauma, a lot of it I remembered, and a lot of it I did not. It was suppressed because that's what the
Yeah.
brain does, so we survive.
I suppress a lot of stuff. Yeah.
We all
People
do
say,
that.
remember this, and I'm like, nope, I don't remember that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So is that where the hypnotherapy comes into play, where it helps people kind of tap into that stuff where they're suppressing those issues and where they can release it?
Yeah, so for regular the kind of mind-based hypnotherapy as is an amazing tool. And so yes, we can regress back into those memories that are suppressed and communicate to find them. But
Yeah.
I found that it's not yet enough. And to create permanent results, we need to also use a methodology, and healing has structure. We can't skip steps, right? So that's why I work with a whole methodology and step-by-step process. But overall, it's not enough to find the issue, the root cause, right?
Yeah.
Because all our work is ultimately root cause based. That's
Right.
amazing. But it's not enough just to talk to that inner child aspect of us or have that emotional release, because emotional release on its own is not yet a guarantee of permanent change.
Right.
And this is what I believe we are missing in the personal and transformation, that personal development and transformation industry. That we think that just finding that root cause and having an emotion and like a release and a cry,
Yeah.
of course, this is healing in itself, especially for us who are very analytical and like brainy. And
Yeah.
that's a trauma response in itself, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the first one to raise my hand that analytical, cerebral kind of personality and like type A, like high achievers, it's a compensation and adaptation.
Support for Label Free Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. Now, ladies, you can use this too. We're all inclusive here. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. And now we're going to have the ladies too, because come on, ladies, let's be real. We have an exclusive offer for my listeners, 20% off plus free shipping with the code labelfree20 at manscaped.com. So thank you, Manscaped, for your support. And everybody is welcome to purchase with my code. I feel like trauma is for, I feel like that's something a lot of people aren't really prepared to deal with and are actually, are awake to it. So I think it takes someone really to be serious along their journey to acknowledge that they've had some trauma that they need to deal with to correct, some things in their life. And it's almost like PTSD, where they've had this and it's a reoccurring where it's causing issues over and over and over again. I've had plenty of trauma. I'm not going to lie. I'm not perfect. I try to get through every day the best that I can, try to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. And, I certainly, that analytical thing, I was actually doing that to my fiance the last couple of days because we had some issues going on. And I'm just like, he's like, will you stop analyzing things to death? And when you say that, like, that's a reaction from something, I say, well, yeah, I mean, I can honestly say that, I've had experienced some trauma in my past early on, my dad was very abusive and just a lot of different things, the domino effect of, of things that happen because of that. So, so yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of therapy, but nothing like what you talk about. So can you explain to us like what that process looks like and how you go about helping someone when they come to you, like to get your coaching, like what's
Mhm.
the journey that looks like for them?
So I will answer that by answering your first comment about there is a lot of resistance to the trauma work and a lot of people are not ready
Yeah.
to go there. And
Yes.
I see it as kind of twofold. From one point of view, it happens because we are on the society cultural level conditioned to suppress our emotions, and we are so uncomfortable doing it and not used to it, right?
Yeah.
That our first response is just suppress it more and more and more. And we can, of course. And unfortunately, the conventional therapy and that analytical brain first approach, all the approaches that are mind based,
Hmm.
I believe there is a lot of resistance to it because people have been burned.
Yeah.
Because the patriarchy taught us that the mind is primary and the way to heal is from the mind, right? Controlling by the mind, somehow as if it was easy. And because it's not actually my theory, it's actually not the case. Because if we start with the body and the emotional healing, then the mind adjusts naturally and organically, right?
Right.
But because it's the reverse way, this is why people are burned, spend a lot of time, effort, got re-triggered and re-wounded, and now avoiding it altogether. That's
Yeah.
one of the problems. And then the other one is a lot of people wait for rock bottom to start this work. And my logic at this point, right, is why wait for the rock bottom
Yeah.
if we can choose it consciously, and then our souls don't have to rock bottom us so hard.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that caused a trauma all in itself. That's another trauma.
So with that said, my approach is, of course, people come to me when they have an issue, like for example, that visibility, for example, an entrepreneur who has a business and she can't go further. She
Yeah.
has, for example, like having amazing tools, wanting to take it to the next level and be known, but she's hiding in her business. She might have reached a certain income or might be struggling altogether, depending what the what the history is.
Yeah.
So most of the people, of course, come with a pattern they want to resolve or money blocks. We all think it's mindset, but again, I believe it's connected to trauma. So, or confidence issues. So these are my three biggest aspects I work with, right? And
Yeah.
how my program is built on. So I work with them on the premise of that type of body first, right? Focusing on the body to release it, to release that emotional charge, to release the body memory, and then doing it simultaneously, or well, because we do a series of sessions. After that happens, whether it's in one session and we do it in each session or whatever, depending on, it's like jewelry type of work. It's very individual.
Okay.
So work one-on-one. It's both coaching and hypnotherapy. I'm teaching a client to become an expert in who they are, so they know what drives them. And then in the coaching, right? And then hypnotherapy, we do the release work and the reprogramming work. And then subconscious work and conscious work is added to it. Okay. And all of it is combined. And so this is what allows for like real-time transformation. And my clients respond to me after sessions and say, I don't know how it happened, but I don't have the same response I had.
Yeah. So you're in real time. So is it almost immediate then when you do some of this work, like after the hypnotherapy, subconscious, programming or whatever it is?
I love this question because I've never been asked this, and only my clients know that, or me myself, because I was my own guinea pig, right?
Yeah.
I was my first client to develop all of this. So the at the end of the session, I usually do a diagnostic to change to check the changes.
Yeah.
So to answer your questions, most of the times to different degree, but the change happens by the end of an hour and a half session, right? And they go home, depending on the depth of the trauma, of course, for sexual trauma and many, many others. For women, it takes more, and this is why it's a program basis, right? Not one-off type of session.
Sure.
But with each session, we kind of amplify and amplify and amplify and build on these transformations. But yes, by the end of every session, I usually do like a diagnostic. I would ask certain questions. I would ask the client to imagine the same scenario that they had an issue with, and they don't have that emotional charge. And so yes, they go on in their life and then email me or tell me in the next session that, hey, I really don't know how it happened, because they don't quite understand the methodology, right?
Sure.
So in the coaching, I try to explain the conscious analytical pieces, right? And then hypnosis, we combine it with that release work on the deep root cause level.
So if it's like a very deep trauma, and I know we're starting to get close on time here, so we'll start wrapping things up. But if it's a deep trauma, after they go through that session and they go home and it's like real time, they're feeling good, can they get re-triggered by, so even though you do it, that your diagnosis, whatever, can they get triggered after the fact? And so I'm assuming that you say it's a program, so it's a process for them to get to where they need to be. So they have to work with you for a little while. I know nothing about hypnotherapy. I'm intrigued by it. I've never been hypnotized. So it's like, I don't even know, is every person able to get hypnotized? I feel like I don't know if I would be able to.
So that's a great question. Again, you ask amazing questions for a lot of us. And again, I used to be that type A high achiever, trauma response, like analytical, very analytical person, right? The first time I had hypnosis, I had a really hard time. But it's like going to the gym and training our muscles.
Yeah.
Right? It's not perfect the first time, but because the tools I use actually can be used in a in a state of hypnosis that's not super deep. Super
Okay.
deep, like a somnambulistic kind of state is not necessary. And hypnosis is not sleep. You're always conscious that
Right.
you're in the comfort of your own bed, because all my work is on Zoom, right? The
Right.
client always knows that they can stand up, turn on the light, whatever. It's completely conscious. It's a state where the brain waves are slowed down and we become more conscious and in touch with our emotions and those unconscious patterns and root causes of them, and we can regress and go into the memories. And again, the more we practice, the better it gets. The more we practice, the better it gets. And this is why over the 4 months of the program, the course of the program, right, it gets better and better and better. For most people, I would say the second session already is completely different, and they're more
Yeah.
relaxed and they're used to me, the style, the voice, right?
Yeah.
And so we develop this relationship gradually. But for the tools for the body memory work, it doesn't have to be a super deep state.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it, because I
Yeah.
know that a lot of trauma, a lot of people with trauma are very hyper vigilant and guarded.
Yes.
I've been there, I understand it, I have all the respect, and my clients call me the queen of working with resistance,
Mm.
because I know it by heart,
Yeah.
all that resistance. And my program is developed around people with a lot of resistance.
I love it. Who is your ideal client?
A woman who is on a mission to make a difference in this world, and she has the tools, some of the methodologies, some maybe a service or product, right? And she wants to expand her reach and fully show up
Yeah.
in her expertise and her visibility, make the money that she deserves, right? And stop hiding. Whether she's hiding a lot or a little bit, it's really doesn't matter so much, because it still puts a stopper on the business energetically and practically. We can't implement all business strategy when we are hiding and when we have all these blocks,
Yeah.
or when we have money blocks. That's very difficult to
Yeah.
attract clients with those. And so a woman on a mission, a woman who is purposeful and wants to become a better human, so she's also a better expert.
I
And
love that.
create a ripple effect
I
altogether.
love that. Oh my gosh. I might have to use that clip for an audiogram because that was awesome. Where can people find you, support you, reach out to you if they're interested, they connected with you with what you're telling us today? Can you please share your links?
TatianaVilarea.com is my website, and I'm the only Tatiana Vilarea with one L, one R on Facebook and Google. I'm pretty easy to find. I have videos on my website, on Facebook. I post about trauma-based blocks pretty much every other day or so, sometimes every day. So it's all there, easy to find. And of course, if anyone has any questions, I would love to answer. And yeah,
Awesome.
do my service in this world.
I will put all of her links in the show notes, you guys. So if you are someone that has connected with Tatiana today, do not hesitate to reach out. Send her, go to her website, support her. You go to her Facebook. I'm sure she would love to hear from you. Before we say goodbye, I like to ask for any last words of wisdom or advice. So what would you like to leave with the audience today?
I would say that if you know that in your hearts of hearts that you are meant for that difference, for that impact, to leave a mark in the world that needs it right now so badly, and you know that you have those blocks, that you've tried to use strategy and you tried to work conventional mind-based or unconventional mind-based tools, and you're yet struggling and it feels like hitting a wall, it might be time to look into known or unknown trauma and emotional wounds and relationship wounds that are showing up in this way and causing all of it. And whether you work with me or not, but looking into this and becoming that expert in who you are, so you can become a better expert in what you do. And yeah, so that would be the advice, a recommendation.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That could be another good clip. Dang it. You're making it tough for me. Well, it was a pleasure having you on the show, Tatiana. Please keep us updated on any new projects, or if you have a book coming out, we'd love to have you back and share that with the audience, because I feel like there might be one or
I
two.
actually have a book coming up, a co-authoring book, and then I'm writing my own. Yeah.
Oh, see, I knew it. I love it. I love my authors. You guys are so amazing. So thank you so much for being a guest. We'd love to have you back. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Kemple with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, share, comment, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.